Welcome to MarketPlay, the marketing podcast where we chat with small business owners and entrepreneurs all about what they do and how they got to where they are. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway, and we're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. So sit back and listen to our conversation as we chat all about business. And welcome to MarketPlay. After her mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in 2010, Anna became her full-time caregiver at only 26 years old. For over a decade, Anna has managed her care and sought out how to help others deal with grief and loss and get the right support they need. Anna found that she lacked community and one-on-one help that was specific to her needs, alongside the needs of her mother. She believes firmly that you cannot care for others unless you care for yourself first. Amen. She became a certified life coach to mentor caregivers dealing with the daily challenges that come with a loved one's diagnosis with dementia. She helps people find value and meaning in their lives and teaches them healthy perspectives through mindset shifts, emotional processing tools, and communication strategies. Anna works alongside you to provide care consulting and resources for you as a caregiver, as well as personal value and empowerment for you to grow as an individual. I am thrilled to welcome Anna to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Meryl. Thank you for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. We're going to jump right into our first little segment of the show called Getting to Know You. And I'm just going to ask you a series of this or that questions. Just first instinct response, throw it out there. They're just for fun.
Okay,
Tablet
great.
or, yeah, right? Okay. Tablet or laptop?
Laptop.
Laptop. You like that? Very satisfying.
I still haven't mastered the tablet. My kids use one, but it's not my preference.
Very common response. The kids get it, and we're like, I don't know. All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Devout coffee drinker. In fact, if I start making my coffee the night before and I set the timer, and I think, I cannot wait to get up early to drink this.
It's a ritual. And some of us just, I live and breathe it. I get it.
Yes.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram. I do not have a TikTok account, actually.
And that's okay. All right. This is an interesting one. Reminiscing the past or focusing on the present?
Focusing on the present, definitely.
Yeah.
Which is also something I've had to learn to do better in the past. So and now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of us, I'm sure we're going to get to that, but most of us really have to learn how to focus on being in the present moment. I know for me, it's always been a challenge, but only when I really got very attuned to how much futurizing I was doing or reminiscing on all the old stuff, I was like, I am never just right here. It is just fascinating how many people don't even realize that they're in one or the other. So
True.
Anyway.
Yeah, reminiscing on the past really doesn't add any value to you unless you use it to add value to your life in the future. So
yeah, exactly. All right, Netflix or YouTube?
I'd have to say, that's a hard one.
I know.
Netflix for entertainment, YouTube for learning.
That's almost what everyone says, and it's so true. Even to the degree that I love baseball, and I follow now this media account through a YouTube channel, and partly because this guy does these incredible breakdowns of all different moments from different baseball games, and I feel like instead of having to have cable and be able to actually watch as much as I can just go on YouTube and literally learn about what's going on in all the games. That alone, let alone learning how to, figure out a program or whatever the different things are. It's just it's endless entertainment in the educational sense as well.
Yes,
I love it.
YouTube is a wonderful platform if you need to learn something, especially my latest addition to trying to boost social media is doing reels, and I am so bad at them, and so I had to YouTube how to make a reel, and there's tons of information out there. So if you're struggling like me, The elder millennial who can't figure out how to do
amen. Amen to all the people who put those videos together. Like, good for you for just wanting to share.
Exactly. I mean, I love them. I love watching them.
I do too. I do too. And then I get lost on Netflix just like anybody does. All right. Lastly, meditation or mantras?
For me, mantras, or I guess that's the same to affirmations. I do meditation in my own way. I have my own way to meditate, but I don't sit there actively and say om or things like that. But I do yoga, so like I think that sacred spot is like that 5 minutes before the classes start. I just kind of lay there. Yeah. That's sort of my meditation moment. But then I do have mantras where I give myself positive affirmations.
Yeah, I love that. I've just started learning how helpful they can be, mantras, and I in another show actually spoke a little bit about them, and just that when you realize that mantras don't have to be something you get from a book or from, like an excerpt of a prayer. Those work for some people, and some people love that. I was actually just recently taught to write my own mantra that's like very specific to where I am now, the things I'm hoping for, stuff like that. And they're incredibly powerful to like repeat each morning. And I actually, for me, it would have been a trick question because I meditate and then do my mantra. So it's like, for me, it would be hard to even choose. But yeah, all the different levels of mindfulness can be extraordinarily helpful.
Exactly.
So,
it's just all about the power of positive thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, that positive psychology and focusing on gratitude and things like that are huge. So, all right, let's stumble right into humble beginnings. So, Anna, what was your very first job ever?
Actually, okay, besides, babysitting as a teenager or a preteen, I actually taught gymnastics to little kids at a local center near where I grew up. So I taught gymnastics to toddlers because I was a gymnast, probably till I was 16, and then I suddenly got way too tall to be a gymnast, so I focused on dancing. But I taught gymnastics, and I do believe as well, once I was able to drive, I got a job at a local grocery store, so I was a beggar, so I helped people with their groceries.
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. So first of all, I'm geeking out because I was a gymnast turned dancer as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was too, quote unquote, chunky to be a gymnast. I remember at 8 years old, they did a fat test on us and I got a bruise. And it was like, if you got a bruise, it was a bad sign. And I quit within like a year of that. I was like, I think everybody was like, yeah, it went right down that path of like the Caroli sort of bad stories you hear.
Oh, no.
But I always thought it'd be really fun to teach little kids, which I actually ended up doing as a dancer. I was on like a scholarship program at my dance school, and I ended up like part of the program was I would just help with some of the classes and help lead the little kids. And it is so much fun to teach little kids stuff like that, don't you think?
Oh,
yeah, did you enjoy it?
It was so fun, and I don't even remember how long I did it for, but maybe a summer between grades in high school. But that's same. I'm 5'8", so I don't remember when I hit that, but I think it was I quit gymnastics my freshman year, and I wasn't really that good skill-wise, but I was always, kind of elegant and always dancing. And I remember when I was younger, my parents or my dad tried to put me in basketball because I was tall, and everyone thought I'd be a really good basketball player, but all I did on the court the whole time was twirls and cartwheels. And there's a video, probably from the late 80s or early 90s, of the people shooting the hoops from one side of the court, and I'm on the total other side of the court doing pirouettes. Probably at 6 or 7 years old.
Man, we're cut from the same cloth. Yeah, I used to do the same thing, but on the soccer field. So I was a goalie for years. And when you're a goalie and they're on the other end, you get to do whatever you want. And I would do cartwheels and try to like do walking handstands and stuff.
So fun.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's and then being a bagger at a grocery store, that's a hard job. You are on your feet nonstop doing that, right? I mean, there's no breaks for that.
Well, at 16 or 17, I think that was just a dream, getting out of my house, earning some money.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have back problems. It's just, I could stand up as long as I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so amazing. You ended up being 5'8". I stayed at 5'3". I never got past. I was like, I guess, pushed low enough through all my years that I didn't get longer. So, okay, so then how did you end up? Now, obviously, we know that your mom got this diagnosis and you were sort of put in a position where you ended up becoming a caretaker. But how did you decide, through, and I guess more the question is, what were you doing prior to that, maybe that lent itself then later to becoming a coach? If there was any lineage, or I don't know if there was any connection really.
Right. So I was actually, so my mom was diagnosed in 2010, and I say diagnosed by a health professional, as a medical professional. I think this type of disease starts a lot earlier. I was actually living abroad in Berlin, Germany. I had moved there to be an au pair, and I was, post-au pair year, I was staying and lived in the city and had a life. I was working a job. I was, by then, somewhat pretty fluent in German. And I flew home to Seattle, Washington for a family wedding, and people noticed that my mom was a little off. And again, I hadn't seen her in about a year. And I noticed too, but I think when you're not right in front of somebody, you don't really notice that onset as quickly. And so what happened was I decided not to renew my visa, and I came back to the States to care for her, and I took her through all these tests and ended up with her frontal temporal lobe dementia and early onset Alzheimer's diagnosis. And I was her caregiver for about 4 years, and it basically just sort of kind of fell on my shoulders. Not necessarily something I really wanted to do, but kind of felt like it was just kind of on me due to other family circumstances. And in that time, I joined a few support groups, and I was not doing well, just mentally and emotionally. I picked up some really bad habits. I, started taking antidepressants, and I think from that point, I just felt like it was just such a burden, and I didn't know how to take care of myself. And, all of my time was going towards my mom. And this whole time of transitioning from being somebody's daughter to being their caretaker, and seeing my mom just decline right in front of my eyes. And it was quite a quick decline, her early onset. Sometimes that happens. It comes more rapidly. And I remember, so once, about 4 years into her diagnosis, I was caring for her pretty much full time. We did have some different caretakers come into the house and, live with us at different times. And I found other resources, adult day centers and daycares for people with memory impairment. But she ended up in 2013 or 14 having a series of seizures due to an infection. And at that point, I thought, I can't be her caregiver anymore. It's out of my, physical capabilities. And I really just wanted to get my life back. So she moved into a full-time memory home. And I remember consulting with people and hiring people to help me just do that job, because it was a lot harder than I thought, and I was the caregiver, and I really tried to do everything, and I was not good at seeking out outside help, and I wasn't really good at turning to other people for help, because I always had that mindset that, I can do this better, and, it has to be my way, or I have control over this, and I wasn't allowing other people to come in and help me. But it really took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. So finally,
of course,
home, she moved into her home, and I felt completely lost. I felt like what I had been giving somebody for the past 4 years, I felt like I had no purpose. I felt like I needed to, and I ended up, finding a job that, almost kind of just to fill that void that I could care for somebody for so long, and now they're gone. And she wasn't gone; she was in her memory home. But it was, I felt happy that I got my life back. But at the same point, what was adding value? Like, how did I add value to my life? So, fast forward through a few career changes, and I found life coaching because of some, issues that I was dealing with. But I always knew that I wanted to help coach families who were dealing with challenges of dementia. And I always knew that I wanted to be an advocate for that, and to, kind of keep her. Keep our relationship alive in that sense. And so I started my coaching practice. I became a certified life coach. And then alongside of that, I decided to kind of blend the life coaching and the care consulting, the dementia care consulting. So that is basically, my niche. And what I'm finding now, and what I found throughout the last year, is that there's so many, specifically millennial caregivers, who are in their late 20s, whose parents have just been diagnosed or have recently been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And I have this 12-year path of wisdom and perspective and sound judgment. And I don't want anyone to go through it alone. I don't want anyone to feel like there aren't resources, there isn't support. And I know there's some wonderful resources out there, and maybe they don't know where to look, or maybe they don't have time to find them. So on one side, I do consulting for somebody who's actually caring for a parent. So I can come in and I can help them deal with challenges. Everyday challenges come with working with somebody with dementia. And then that gives them the bandwidth to possibly work on themselves, to care for themselves more, to be more compassionate to themselves. So that's just really that was just kind of my motivation and inspiration behind, creating my business, because I'm actively in networking with people and listening to people's stories, and I just think that it's very isolating to be a caregiver, especially during the pandemic. It's been very isolating for people. So
yeah, wow. I mean, it makes so much sense when you think about a lot of us find our work organically because there's some sort of interest or some commonality. And, for you, it sounds like just due to going through all of it yourself, you're like, I know how hard and crazy this can be, and how on my own I've felt the whole time. But once you had gotten through to a certain place where you had done everything you could and then found somewhere else where they could take care of her from that position moving forward, like, why not use all of that wealth of knowledge, all of that experience, the empathy and compassion and understanding you have, and start your own business through it? I mean, I commend you for it, because I really think first of all, it's one of those things that, of course, you're going to be good at it because you've lived it, right?
Right.
And that makes a huge difference. I mean, somebody can be a therapist who's never experienced depression or anxiety or had difficult family issues, and they might be great at what they do because they studied it. But someone who understands it more thoroughly, to me, is somebody who is going to excel to a different level. And that sounds like what you did. So I'm just curious, so when you were starting the business side of it, how was it that you first started trying to get clients so that you could help people? Because obviously it was all about helping people, but creating a business is creating a business. So what were some of the things that you did to start building that?
So what I started to do is I have actually been a part of an Alzheimer's support group for pretty much the majority of the past decade. And so the Alzheimer's Association, they have local chapters, and I go to one called Young Caregivers Group for Early Onset. And I just started really by reaching out to my fellow peers in that support group who I've been in contact, over the years. And some of their parents had passed on, some of them are still around, but I reached out and I offered, complimentary coaching sessions if there was something, pretty much to practice, and to kind of hone in on possibly, now that your parent is gone, now that your loved one has passed away, what do you find? What are some challenges you're dealing with? Do you have any voids? Or is there anything, emotionally or mentally that's holding you back that I could help with? So I started there, and I also have a few family members. Two of my uncles passed away with Alzheimer's, and they're much older than my mom. And so I reached out to my cousins because during their diagnosis and through their, life with Alzheimer's, my cousins constantly, called me and reached out to me to seek a little bit of, support from the inside because I had gone through it with my mom. And so they were able to say, hey, my dad is starting to do this, and there's this really complicated behavior, and I don't know how to get him to fade, or he's starting to wander, or I don't know how to take his car keys away without him getting upset. And so they would turn to me. And I feel like I've been coaching family members and friends without even having a business for the past 10 years. And so that's really where I started, and I thought, well, this is, and even now, I attend the Alzheimer's conference every year, and it's, for example, I have, I'm growing my social media followers, and I connect with people on there. And if something resonates with me, there's a company here in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, and they do this art program called Opening Minds Through Art, and it's for dementia. It's for people living with dementia, and they will drop off art supplies on your front porch for the caregiver, and then you log on to a virtual Zoom meeting once a week, and they have a volunteer art instructor from a local college do an hour of art with a family. And I reached out to this one woman who I know who cares for her mom, and I said, this is perfect for you. I'm not asking for any compensation for that. I just know that she would benefit from this so much. And so it's of course I'm trying to have, of course I have a business and I have clients and I work with a program, but if I hear something's going to benefit somebody, I get the word out there. And so yeah, I think that's really how it kind of started, just connecting with people, connecting with my colleagues and peers and my support group and family members, and just reaching out to as many people as I could to ask, what are their current challenges, or do they have goals that they're not able to work on or exceed because they're stuck, living and caring for somebody all the time around the clock, which takes so much time and so much energy, takes so much out of you.
Yeah.
And it's sad because some people just have completely thrown away their goals and their life ambition.
Yeah, and how can you not in a certain way, right? When you said you're just inundated, and because in these cases, someone's unsafe if they're not being watched and taken care of. So especially if you're a loved one, like the only thing you want to do is keep them safe and as healthy and happy as possible. So I'm just curious. So what is one of the strategies where someone's in one of these really difficult situations and they're struggling with the sadness and the grief and the depression, in finding joy? How is one of the ways that you might talk to somebody about being able to find joy despite being stuck in that kind of cycle?
Right. I think, so if you are a caregiver in your home, which you are among 16 million other Americans who are providing unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or dementias, I think that creating the balance and the bandwidth, I think that having a guide or a consultant to meet with you once a week to kind of map out your week, to say, oh, you have a challenging behavior, or you have, so I give them tools to deal with the challenging behavior so that it's not so mind draining, so that you can use your functions and your cognitive ability to deal with that problem in a way that comes from my knowledge as a dementia consultant. So that challenge becomes less demanding. I feel like, when you get really stressed out in a situation, your cortisol levels rise and you just are completely stressed out and you don't really have capacity to make a really good decision. And so I think by giving them tools to communicate better with their loved one, they can say, that was so much easier than it used to be. Oh my gosh, I can take a deep breath. My parent is, doing this, and it's not such challenging behavior. It doesn't cause so much friction that they don't become aggressive. They don't become, as confused. And then that gives them the capacity to do something else, whether that be, take a walk or read a book or sit quietly for a few minutes. And it's those small things that really add up to boosting your mental stamina and your health. And it's those little things. And it's just, I had a client whose parent was a very devout Catholic. And so what I did is I arranged for somebody from the local parish to come in and serve the communion because they weren't able to go into church. And the client who had dementia was just missing that from their life and from their weekly routine. And so you have to look at the person. You have to know, who are you as a person? Who were you in the past, and how can I work with your strengths? And so by sort of working behind the scenes to call in that service, gave that person an hour every Sunday where they did have to plan an activity for their loved one. And so I would say those little moments, those bring a lot of joy to the person, to the caregiver, to the care partner. It's just those little ways. And they have one-on-one support. I am continuously working behind the scenes to make sure that their days go smoothly, their weeks go smoothly, being really connected, and now with everything going virtual, it's almost easier to stay connected and to be able to access and help families, around the nation. So I think they can find joy by knowing that the challenges that they were facing in the past they can now conquer. They now have the wisdom. They have sound judgment to move forward. And that just, I think, in itself brings so much joy and just more balance and harmony into their lives.
Yeah, I was going to say balance is like a big thing that keeps coming up in my mind, having that balance, and also just having the ability for any time for self-care, right? So if someone's taking care of someone all the time, and like you said, not, the way that you experienced it was not having any time for yourself, and sort of then you end up losing yourself to a certain degree. And that would make anyone sad. So then you go through that whole cycle. And so finding balance, but also time for self-care. And I think that all of us need self-care. It's absolutely necessary. But so many people just say, I don't have time for that. And there's that age old, sort of thing of like, I don't have, meditate for 10 minutes a day or take 10 minutes for yourself a day. When someone says, I don't have 10 minutes, then you say, okay, well then you need 20, because if you don't have 10 minutes for yourself, I can guarantee that you're rushing through life, or, just pushing through life, which I've done many times, and really had to work on a self-care practice once I understood that. So I guess another question I'd love to ask that I feel like a lot of people wonder, because, there's a variety of different types of coaching now that people offer. And this is like this incredible niche type of coaching. But a question that comes up a lot is, what is the difference between a coaching session and a therapy session? And I feel like I know the answer pretty well, but a lot of people don't. And I'd love to give you the opportunity just to kind of explain that a little bit.
Sure. So that is a really great question. And I always tell people that therapy and coaching does not have to be a this or that. It really depends on the person. It depends on what you're striving for. I actually come from not a therapy background as in I'm trained as a therapist, but I have been in therapy for the majority of the past 10 years. Therapy looks at your past and talks about what issues in your past are bringing certain issues today, and it is very beneficial for certain people who kind of need that perspective. I can sit down and I can know if you may need more help in a mental from mental instability, whereas coaching is very future based. Let's look at your goals. You have to have a vision. How am I going to lead you into a greater depth of insight? And that insight that I'm leading you into is insight within yourself and within the person who has dementia, for example. What is it going to look like in the future, right? I don't think a therapist could sit down and say, I can tell you in 2 years what challenges are going to come with your parent who's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. They might be if they've dealt with that themselves. And so I'm definitely here to say that it just depends on you and sort of what your goals are in a way. And like I said, therapy is kind of about looking at the past. And also, I think that when you sit down with your therapist, you have an hour, and then your hour's over, and then you go home. And you have to work on things on your own. It's up to you. You have to be accountable for yourself, whether or not you're going to implement what you learned in therapy in your real life. But when you work with a coach, they are holding your hand. They are your friend and your comrade, and they have your back, for as long as you want. And it's not like, okay, after our coaching session, okay, bye, I'll see you in a week, like, good luck. No, it's let's video chat. Oh, your parent is sundowning, call me, I'll walk you through it, right? So I did a certification course through a really well-known dementia, gosh, I don't even know what I call her, Raised to the Snow, and I did her, I'm a certified consultant through her program. So I feel like the coaching is for you and for your life and your self-care, and then the dementia consulting is to be able to tackle that self-care because you focus on the challenges. So I hope that answers the question. I think that there is space and time and a need for coaches and therapists. I don't think that one is better than the other. I think they're, it's like apples and oranges.
Yeah, and a lot of people can benefit from both, like you're saying. I mean, because you're right. I like the way that you mentioned perspective when it comes to therapy, because, a lot of people have so many things in their past to unpack, to understand why they feel the way that they do, or how they've sort of been shaped, and their habits have been formed. And with coaching, it's true. It's like it's a very mutually respected relationship. That's ongoing support, and the goal setting is so different than therapy. Like when you're setting goals with someone, as a coach, you're helping them come up with like really attainable small goals that can work them through the current thing. And I feel like in therapy, while there's a lot of like, I keep doing this and I keep doing this, there's not necessarily the same structure of, and now this is how you can take this thing and get out of it. It's a lot of, and it's not necessarily like that's bad either. It's can be incredibly beneficial. And I've done a lot of that, and I've done some coaching, and I will say, I think that that mutually, like at the same time, they can be incredible ways for people to break through a lot of what they're actively going through or dealing with, and change their lifestyle or certain things, so that the things that they've learned that they grew up within, they can go, okay, well, that's why this all feels so chaotic to me. So how do I make my life less chaotic? And then the goal setting with a coach can really then attain those things. So I just think it's very interesting. A lot of people get them a little confused or think that one might be better, and they're both really incredible ways of helping you through different things. And some people need extra therapy, and some people might need, a coach and a nutritionist Like, you just don't know. There are like going to be different ways that people need things. But
Exactly.
so let me just ask you this now. So what is one of like the best things to come out of you embarking on starting your own business?
Well, I think that it's definitely the silver lining of COVID. Just being home, working from home, and just thinking, how am I going to fill my day? Oh, okay. Actually, I was looking for a life coach. Actually, I was in there. I still see a therapist, but I thought I really need some help on some. How do I turn all this passion I have, it's just boiling inside of me. How do I turn it into a business? So I was looking for a life coach. And instead of getting a life coach, I actually took a life coach course because I really wanted to know about, more about it. And I really loved the philosophy behind it and how it, it added so much value to my life. And I said, I've always wanted to do some sort of dementia consulting and care for families. So I reached out to some old mentors who were the facilitators for my support groups, and I just kind of asked them to tell me about their journey. One of them owns a local company that does elder care management, so similar to what I offer, but it's specifically for people who are a certain age and over. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting off the question.
Oh no, just in starting your own business,
So.
Because not only did you get to learn things, but then you got to start actively getting clients to help people. And I wonder what some of the best parts of that are,
I think it's just, it's just, for me, it's about, waking up every day and thinking, I've finally, I was never the kid who knew exactly what I wanted to do in life. I never thought, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be a veterinarian or a doctor. And so it's like I have this like little kid giddiness where I know what I want to do in my life. And
it's a really different feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
a lot of people right now are searching for that, I mean, a lot of people are making career changes and coming up with what do I do now is a really existential question that is very difficult.
Exactly.
So when I see you light up like that, of course, because finally you feel like you have something that is so, and it's so obvious to me that you're an incredible coach, because coming from everything you've come from and having done so much self-work as well along the way to make sure that you got back on track with yourself, you can probably spot from a mile away what's going on with someone as, while you're doing your active listening. But
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, so what do you feel like, I guess the biggest thing in being in business on your own, because some people I know can coach out of different sort of organizations or even like wellness centers, or like you said, there are different facilities where you could potentially maybe work inside, but you're your own practice. So what's maybe the benefit just to that?
Well, I think, everyone kind of has that dream of being their own boss and creating their own hours. But I think it also gives me, and I would say this is interesting, because one of the other reasons why I think that there's a benefit to coaching, and even a lot of therapists become coaches, is because you're not licensed in a particular state. So I can coach all over the United States. I have people who are messaging me through Instagram who live in the UK. I have people who message me who live in Germany. I listen to, because I speak German quite fluently, but I understand a lot more than I can say. But I listen to dementia care consultants on a German Clubhouse call often, and so I can connect with people in Germany. I can give them support. If they wanted to be a client of mine, I could provide support to somebody who's living in Germany. And so that is kind of, I feel like there's endless possibilities in who I can reach and who I can help. And I mean, I think this going back to the main issue, and that is fighting for people who have dementia to, treat them more equally and treat them as people, and fighting for their care partners so that they have better lives for themselves. So perhaps that care partner isn't suffering like I was suffering. It doesn't instantly go on antidepressants, who doesn't instantly go on an anti-anxiety medicine, who knows how to cope with their their loss.
Yeah.
And I think that, it really ties into so much more. It's so much more than just coaching. I feel like we could have a whole other podcast to talk about it. Just, I got into
Definitely.
some really bad, when I was caring for my mom, I got into some really bad spending habits. I became a compulsive spender. I went to Debtors Anonymous, and can I help someone get out of creating some really bad habits where it's going to manifest later in life. It's going to come to the surface and cause relationship troubles or turmoil. So it's just as a business coach, or not business coach, but as a dementia care coach, I just think it adds so much. It will add so much value. It will add so much value. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. So one other thing I want to touch on before we go to our last segment of the show is just, you've mentioned that you get messages from people, and I'm curious how much, social media, whether it's, Instagram or elsewhere, you've found ways to sort of connect, with people and potential clients.
Right. So I have an Instagram account, and so, I connect with people if I see, local, not just local, but caregivers posting their story about their parents. I just, genuinely kind of applaud their efforts and ask them if, I'm not trying to do, a direct sales pitch or anything, but, I just want to build trust with people. So there was a woman, and I'll keep it completely anonymous, and she reached out to me, and it was so late at night, and her sister was with her mother, and her mother was sundowning, and I probably spent maybe 45 minutes of my evening just Facebook messaging her back and forth because her sister was distraught. She didn't know what to do, and she lived in the eastern part of the United States, and she was in Michigan, and I'm in Washington. And I just spent the evening trying to help her and calm down and text her. And finally, my one resource that I could say is just call the Alzheimer's Association and have your sister talk through that because, I wasn't able to get on the phone with her. But I am working on. I need to create a Facebook page for my business. So that's something I need to work on. But I also am on Clubhouse calls a lot and groups and just listening. And I'll be invited up onto the stage of other entrepreneurs or other caregivers and, share my story, connect with people by getting the word out through podcasts. I think the business side of that, things are evolving a little slower. I have all these ideas and I'm going a million miles an hour, but I have to kind of step back and work on the essentials, the behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
a lot. It's a lot to take on, and it's
right.
And I commend you for it. It's one of those things that I think, we have listeners who have been in business for a long time, who are established. We have people who, are looking to change what they do, and starting something new is very daunting for anybody, but also trying to swing with the next way of getting out to people. And Clubhouse is still, I don't know what Clubhouse is. I do. I was invited by 12 people, and then I downloaded it, and I've literally never opened it because I'm I can't with another thing. But sometimes it's a great way to connect with different people, and you just never really know. So it sounds like you established your website, you reach out to, the support groups and the different organizations you already knew are within this sort of scope. And then you see what other things are popping up organically with people actively dealing with this and connect with them. It makes so much business sense to me. So I think it sounds like it's a great way of going into it. So moving into our last one of the show called Branded, I'm just going to I have 3 multiple choice questions that are just to give people more information about all of this. And if you get them all right, amazing. If you get them wrong, it doesn't matter. You still win. You win. It's just fun. I think it gives a little bit more, like I said, just actual technical information about some of this. So, and the first one is from your website, so it's fine.
Oh gosh.
It's okay. So in 2021 alone, Alzheimer's and other dementias will cost the U.S. how much money? And this was shocking to me. Is it A, $283 million, B, $355 billion, or $76 billion?
By 20, what year?
In 2021, just in 2021.
350 billion.
I mean, wow. And to think, you said 16 million people are at home as caregivers with no salary, no compensation, just doing the right thing for their parent or loved one. I mean, that's astounding. And I think most people are not aware of those statistics.
Right.
Yeah. That was really shocking to me. And so obviously also, I mean, so many people out there that need someone like you to help guide them along the way. So second question is, what percentage of dementia cases are early onset? Which again, I just didn't know this, or before the age of 65 is considered the early onset. So is it around 1% of cases, around 30% of cases, or up to 9% of cases?
Ooh.
I know, it's tricky too. Either way, it's all like, what? I just
30?
I didn't know. It's up to 9, but it says it's been rising. So it's that kind of thing that like you just and I read a little bit into the fact that it's like I said, it's been more of that early onset. And I always have considered dementia and Alzheimer's as being for a much older person.
Right.
And it's really not.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm considering niching down into just a millennial caregiver coach just for
millennials. What you said before of how many, like the percentage of just it being millennials in this position. So they're not even in their own lives fully yet.
No,
they're
in their mid to late 20s. They're just like I was. They are doing their life, working on their career, working on relationships, trying to have fun, and all of a sudden they're changing their mother's depends.
Yeah.
I've been there.
I've been there. Yeah. So again, so many people need this, and I'm excited to be part of hopefully getting more word out there. Last question is, what is not one of the ways that you can reduce your risk of getting dementia? So A, staying physically and mentally active, B, raising children, or C, avoiding smoking and less alcohol consumption.
The children one.
Yeah. I mean, technically, being busy, like having things that you're focused on in general is good, but technically like raising children is not necessarily a way that you can like avoid it. Always staying physically active, mentally active. They say doing like crossword puzzles and like words with friends and different things that really use cognitive skills and like make you hone on the cognitive skills are very helpful. And then I was actually surprised, but like smoking contributes. Smoking contributes to so many conditions, but I didn't realize it would contribute to this. And alcohol consumption. I mean, obviously everything in moderation when it comes to, I mean, even alcohol, I think. But if you're a heavy drinker and a smoker, you are definitely more at risk, which I thought was a little bit, might be surprising to some people.
And actually, it's interesting, but you're also at risk if you suffer from depression and anxiety. If you have a history of, if you get a diagnosis of, if you're get a diagnosis of anxiety or depression later in life, you're at a higher risk of developing early onset Alzheimer's. And although I'm not a medical professional, I just attended a webinar with the one and only Tifa Snow, who's this dementia guru, and she said it on the webinar. So
wow, yeah.
Listen to Tifa. She knows what
Listen
she's talking about.
Yeah.
And that's
all right. Well,
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I just collaborated with a health coach, and we did a little Instagram live on how to boost your brain health. So sometimes what I'm talking about, it doesn't even have to do with caregiving. It's just, we offered some health coaching tips on supplements or different oils and some sort of like Ayurvedic items that you could incorporate into your daily routine to help boost your brain health.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so speaking of which, how can people find you and reach out for those types of resources?
Sure. So my website is coachannacantor.com. I made it very easy. And I'm also coach_Anna Cantor on Instagram. you can reach out to me by sending me a message, or you can DM me on Instagram. I'm pretty quick to reply, and I do complimentary calls for just getting to know you, getting to know if there's anything that I could possibly guide you with or coach you on. And I do programs are typically 12 weeks, and you meet once a week, or one-off sessions, which are an hour each. So if you just have one specific issue, I offer an hour of coaching with follow-up emails and a week of support.
Great. Amazing. Well, Anna, I can't thank you enough for being on here and sharing your personal story and your business story. I think it'll really be helpful for a lot of people to find out, and I wish you so much success in being out there helping everybody who needs it.
Thank you. Thank you, Meryl, so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to MarketPlay this week. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway. We're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. Always fighting for the small business. If you liked our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your colleagues. Have a safe week out there, and we'll see you next time.